How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another FSX. Today we're going to be doing something a little different than usual. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on the 737-800 with winglets. If yours doesn't have winglets, it's alright. It's the same setup, just without winglets. So, with that being said here, let's jump right into the cockpit. Like I said, this is going to be a little different. And let's get right into this. I'm going to try making this video as short as possible. Just so you guys aren't sitting here for like 40, 50 an hour. So, let's get right into it. So, first things first, you're going to want to pull up your FMC, your FMS, or your FMC. I call it the FMC, the Flight Management Computer. You could open that by pressing Shift 3. Also, one other thing I do want to add on is that if you guys do ever have any questions during this tutorial, please drop it in the comment zone and I will answer them. And then you're going to want to go to Pmdg Setup. It's on your first page. If you're not on this page for some reason, just click the menu button right here under the Init Ref button and press Pmdg Setup, State Load, and I have all these saves. You may or may not have all these saves, but if you do have all these saves, you're going to want to go and find this thing called ngxlong. If it's not on the first page, you can press next page and it'll just scroll on, or previous page for the previous page. So, ngxlong, execute. And then your aircraft should look like this. Now it's going to have a countdown in the top left hand corner. You can't see mine because mine doesn't record up into that high of a resolution in the top screen there. But it will count down from 17 or 18 and it will count down to 0. You're going to want to wait till that hits 0. And once that hits 0, then you can start doing your setup here. Alright, so mine hit 0. So first things first, you're going to want to start in the overhead panel. And we're not going to be loading any passengers or anything today. We're just going to be flying a simple route. So here we go. So overhead panel. I am starting from the long state, like I said, so this isn't cold and dark, so it's going to be a longer state. So here we go. Battery, first things first. The checklist will be in the description if you want to follow the checklist I am doing. So here we go. Battery that is on, guarded, and closed. The battery is right here. This is the battery right here. If this happens to not be on, you obviously did something wrong, because if it's in the long state, then the battery should be on. So the battery, this should always be on, guarded, and closed. The standby power. The standby power is what powers your FMC, your autopilot panel, and whatnot. So you're going to want that also on, guarded, and closed. Your left aft fuel pump, that could go on here. You flip this on right here. And then you're going to start slowly pumping fuel. Your APU, the auxiliary power unit, basically what gives you power without the engines, unless you have your GPU, which is your ground power. Which I happen to have my GPU plugged in right now, but... Okay, so the APU starting. When you hit the APU, make sure you actually go like this and hold it until it goes like that, and you hear that clicking noise. And once you hear that APU clicking noise, you see this thing show up called low pressure right here. And then you'll see this thing slowly rising. Now it's going to take around 10 to 20 seconds to actually start rising, and then probably around a minute actually for the APU gen to actually start working. So, alright, we're going to skip APU gen since the APU gen isn't ready, and then we're going to go over here to emergency exit lights, and we're going to arm those. The emergency exit light, straightforward, it just arms the emergency exit light. So that, all you got to do is guard it. And the window heaters, which are up here. You're going to want to do the overheat warning. By doing that, you right click and it will do a overheat warning, and they are all working. So you're going to turn these two on and those two on, the left two and the right two. Alright, those are going to come on. The recirc fans, and you're going to want to turn those to auto. Your isolation valve, which is right here, you're going to want to turn that to auto, and your packs you want to turn to auto. Engine hydraulics. The engine hydraulics are right here. These two are already flipped on. As you can see, they're these two things right here. The fuel. We are going to be doing a flight from Los Angeles to San Francisco. So what I'm going to do here, I didn't get any of my fuel yet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to monitor capture for you guys. I'm going to show you what I go on here. I go flight aware for my route, and fuel planner for my fuel. So we are in a Pmdg or i5/Pmdg 737-800, and we're flying from KLAX to KSFO. Those are the iCal codes. And total fuel is 12,227 pounds. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up your FMC. Go back here. You're going to open up your FMC. You're going to go to menu. FS actions, fuel, and you're going to put 12227. Now sometimes it might not be in pounds. Well, first let me say, you put the fuel here, right here, the top left hand corner button here. Sometimes it may be in kilograms instead of pounds, and the way you get rid of kilograms is you go over here to Pmdg setup, aircraft, displays, and you gotta look for it. Alright, no, I guess it's always in pounds, but if yours is in kilograms, it's in the Pmdg setup and somewhere in here. I forgot where it is, but I'm pretty sure it's actually always in pounds. So anyways, as I was saying, FMC, and there, we put our fuel in. So the fuel is on. We're going to be skipping the payload today, but let's say if you were doing the payload, you go over here to FS Actions, Payload, and you just say how many passengers you're loading on your flight. So, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So next you're going to want to go over to your position light. Your position light is basically just light. So did I just lag into a tree? Okay, I was just making sure. Alright, so position light is right here, and it is on steady right now, as you can see. And you're going to want to turn your logo light on and your wing light on. Alright, once those are on, you're going to want to go over here to your seatbelt signs, which is right here. You're going to want to turn that on and flip this twice. So seatbelt sign is on. And also, as you can see now, the APU, which this blue light isn't on because, or it is on, because the only reason why it turned on is because we put this to start here. So this blue light in the middle here turns on when we start the APU here. So what you're going to do now is you're basically going to flip this switch and flip this switch. And now you can remove your ground power unit, make sure your parking brake is set. You could go over here to your FS actions, your ground connections, and you could remove all of that. Now for an example, let's say I did not turn the APU gen on and I just removed the ground power unit. My simular, all my screens and pretty much everything would go black. So that's what would happen, that's how you know your APU is on. So anyways, let's keep going. We have our IRS mode selectors. Now the IRS mode selectors, they are all the way at the top here. Basically the IRS mode selectors navigate where you are in the world, so you're going to want to turn these both to nav. And you're going to say on DC, on DC. You're going to want to wait for them to say aligned. And you're going to want them both to say aligned like this. And make sure they're both on nav. Alright, once that is set, you can jump on over to your FMC by opening it with Shift 3, go to Menu, FMC, Position in it, and now you tell the airport, or you tell the plane where you are. So basically reference airport is the airport you're at right now. I am at KLAX, Los Angeles International, so Kilo Lima Alpha X-Ray. And gate, I'm not going to put that, I'll show you why. And now you see this, it says set IRS position, and it's got some coordinates and whatnot. Now, if you do not see this, obviously you did not enter your IRS position or set your IRS position, so you're going to want to go up here and make sure these both say aligned, which they do. So what you're going to do now is set IRS position. You're going to go next page, you're going to go GPS L, GPS left, and you're going to take that, go previous page, and set it in here. Now you will see our screens are no longer have that yellow circle, any yellow on it anymore. You're going to see that the GPS is actually ready to use now. And this is the point in time where you're going to want to go to route. Put KLAX as your origin airport because that's the airport you're at. And we are traveling to San Francisco, which is Kilo Sierra Foxtrot Oscar. What? Oh, I put a P. I was like, alright, so Kilo Sierra Foxtrot Oscar, which is San Francisco's ICAO code. And our flight number, let's say our flight number today is going to be Southwest 129er. So we will put SWA 129er. The flight number is not required, I just put it in there just for more realism. And our runway. So usually if you're, let's say you're on VetSim and you listen to the ATIS, it'll tell you the runway on there. So the runway, let's say for an example, because usually the departing runway at LA is 24 left, so we're going to put runway 24 left. Alright, so runway 24 left, and then you're going to go next page. Now this is the point in time where you're going to start putting in your route and whatnot. So let's say, well, this is where FlightAware comes in. So I'm going to go back over here to Monitor Capture, and I'm going to show you. You go on flightaware.com. It's going to take you to a page like this, and I'm going to type in my origin airport and then my destination airport, which is San Francisco. I'm going to search flights. And look at that, we have a Southwest going out in 46 minutes. It doesn't have to be in 46 minutes. It could be in arrival or it could be on its way. But here's what you're looking for right here. You're looking for the route, this thing right here. Now, the route, you're going to copy it. You're going to Control-C. And I'm going to be, let's say I was on vPilot. I'd basically open vPilot. I'm just going to do it as an example for a second. This is for those of you who are on vPilot. If you're not on vPilot, then you don't have to listen to this. And you're going to go over here to Flight Plan, and you're going to paste it in File Your Flight Plan. So that's pretty much all you do with vPilot. Now, if you are not flying on vPilot and you're just flying single player, you are going to put that route in. So let's read that route. That is the Voodoo 6 departure. Let me get the note here. Open sticky notes. There we go. So I can just read it really fast for you guys. Alright, so the Voodoo 6, the departure, if you were looking, it was the Voodoo 6 departure. So what you're going to do is you're going to press the departure/approach button, that is DEP/APR, or arrival, departure/arrival, and that is right there. And you're going to get prompted with a screen like this. You're going to do depart KLAX, and that is, you're going to keep pressing next page until you see Voodoo 6. And then departing 24 left, you're going to click, or whatever runway you may be departing, or your departure may be. Then you're going to click route, and you're going to start putting in your route. Now, after this, you're going to put in the rest of the route, so you're going to do, the rest of my route would happen to be Stoked, so, or no, we got the wrong transition, sorry. Voodoo 6, and then the transition is Romeo Zulu Sierra off 24 left, sorry. So sometimes you may have a transition. Mine happened to be Romeo Zulu Sierra right here, as you can see. So that was our transition. Sometimes you may not have a transition as well, but here we go. As we were saying, let's get back in. So we have that transition. Let's go back to route. And now you're going to put in the rest of your route, which the rest of my route is Sierra Tango Oscar Kilo Delta. Then Surfer. That's Sierra Echo Romeo Foxtrot Romeo. And then the Surfer 2 arrival into San Francisco. So you're going to go look for next page. Sometimes you have .28B or something like that. That means Surfer 2 is for runway 28. So I'm going to go IRS 28 left. There's no transition for me. I'm going to go back to my route here. Now you're going to see something like this, like multiple squares. This means route discontinuity. I don't know how to say it that well. Route discontinuity. But anyways, what you do to this is you're going to go next page. You're going to copy the route, the waypoint closest to that multiple squares. And you're just basically going to copy that by right-clicking on the little rectangle it's closest to. And you're going to basically paste it there. And then you may have multiple squares. For this flight, I happen to not have multiple squares, so all I gotta do now is press activate and execute. Now, what we do now is go to preference initialization. We get our 0 fuel weight by just clicking that little square there and just pasting it there. Our reserves, I'm gonna put 5 today. Usually the reserves for a 737 is 5. Our cost index for Southwest is 45. Our cruise altitude today for San Francisco, that is going to be, let me just confirm here. Alright, that is going to be an odd altitude. So we are going to be doing an odd altitude. So we are going to go up to 190, which is 19,000 feet. The reason why you don't put the full number is I am not 100% sure with that, but you just put half the number. So let's say you're going up to 310, you would put flight level 310. Or I'm putting 190 in this case, so 19,000. And you paste that there. Cruise out, change to 20,000. Alright, so it wants us at 20,000. So sometimes it may do that. All you gotta do is clear that message and continue on. N1 limit, you're going to do 24K of thrust. I would recommend it, unless it's a shorter runway, then I would do 26K thrust. But other than that, I would always recommend 24K to save fuel and to prevent damage on the engine. So we're doing 24K of thrust. That's it for this page. All we got to do is take off page. Flaps 5 usually, or 10 for departure. I always do flaps 5. And then the trim, you're going to see this thing called CG, and then trim next to it. You're basically going to tap the key next to it, and it will put your trim in for you. And then you're going to see this, V1, VR, V2. V1, 132, VR, 133, and V2, 143. The way I did that is I just press the keys next to it. V1 is basically, or the V speeds are basically your speeds that you take off with. In V1, after V1, you can no longer stop if you get like an engine failure or something like that. So after V1, you can no longer stop. So VR is 133, and which is basically rotate, and that's where you start bringing the nose up and taking off. V2 is basically another second speed, and you put that in your little speed here. So we're putting that, it is, no, I do not want the main exit open. Close that exit. Close the exit. Alright, so there's the V speeds, and that is it for the FMC, guys. Sometimes you actually may have a vector like this. All you gotta do is select the thing below the vector, the waypoint below the vector, and just replace it and execute it. Make sure you do that. Make sure you don't have any vectors anywhere. Alright, Shift 3, and we can get rid of the FMC, and we can continue on with our checklist. We have our trim now. Remember, our trim was 5.23. You want to get, we're just going to confirm that. Oh, never mind, it was 5.13. Good thing I checked. So the trim is basically your rudder, or your elevator trim, and basically at what it trims at. So you're not going to want to go all the way up to 10, because otherwise your pitch or your nose is going to be just straight up into the sky, and you're not going to want that to happen, otherwise you're going to stall. So make sure you do your elevator trim, and you're going to get 5, you're going to look for 5.13. 5.16 is close enough. You're not always going to be right on the mark as long as you're close. And, oh yeah, and also the way you could look for it is by using either this thing right here, or you'll have a little bubble that shows up telling you your trim. Alright, we have that. Now we need to set our comms and radios. Let's say, for an example, no ATCs online at VATSIM. All you'd have to do is go contact 122.8, which is Unicom, and put that in your actives. You also got to make sure that radio 1 is on. Sometimes this may be highlighted. You want to make sure that is highlighted or lit up. Alright, next on the list, you're going to want to do a system test. All you got to do for this is come over here, and you're going to see a button right here that says SYS test. You're going to want to hold that button down right here. It's a black button right here until you hear people talking.
Glide slow.
There we go. You're going to hear them. Now it's testing on the system. You're also going to want to jump over here to your squawk or your transponder. Move this all the way over to the right and press the button on it, and that is basically setting your TCAS now. TCAS is basically traffic. If traffic gets close enough to you, it's going to give you a traffic warning and tell you if you need to move out of the way for it. You're going to either hear TCAS test passed or TCAS test failed. If you get a TCAS test failed, that means you've done something wrong and you need to watch this tutorial over again.
Bank angle, minimums.
Alright, we have our TCAS. Now we're going to look at our flight deck doors. The way you look at your flight deck doors is you come over here and you just want to make sure this is locked. You could go deny right there, and then it will lock it. Alright, flight deck doors are locked. Our transponder and TCAS that is standby. We're squawking VFR right now. Let's just give an example. Let's say ATC gave us a squawk of 4416. So there's our squawk today, 4416, and our TCAS is set. Our speed is set to 143. We're going to want to turn that arm on. Our heading of the runway we are taking off, we are going to be going right here. And the heading of the runway is basically the heading of the runway. You can find that with a chart, or you can just use your GPS right here and look and set the heading to that. Your heading is basically, for those of you who do not know what the heading is this thing right here, this little purple dotted line. If you press heading select when you're in autopilot, this will turn green, and then you'll start flying this direction, whatever way you want to fly. Otherwise, I would recommend LNAV. Alright, our heading select is set. Our initial altitude, let us set that. Now our initial altitude is down here, and we're going to go straight up to our cruising altitude today, which is 20,000 as stated by the FMC. Usually the ATC will give you at LA except maintain 5,000, or sometimes they just may tell you to go straight up to your altitude. It all depends on what the ATC says to you. So now that we have our initial altitude, we're going to want to come up here to our yaw damper, which is up here. You're going to have to move this thing out of the way. Just click it, our projector. And the yaw damper is this thing right here. You're just going to flip that on and wait for that light to go away. And there it goes. So the yaw damper is on. The cruise altitude, now you may be thinking, wait, we just set the cruise altitude. But no, the cruise altitude is actually up here, and this is the altitude you will be cruising at. We're going to be cruising at 20,000 today. And our landing altitude, which is next on the checklist, you're going to want to figure your landing altitude. You're going to come over here to your FMC. You're going to press legs on the FMC. You're going to keep pressing next page until you see the runway you're landing on. And to the right of it, all the way at the end, should be your landing altitude. Mine is 63 feet today. So I'm going to go back to legs. Make sure you put that back to normal so you can follow your route. And I'm just going to estimate, which is 50 right there. So your landing altitude will be 50. In this case, it may not be 50. It might be like 100 something. Or if you're flying Denver, it might be like 2,000 or something. But anyways, as we may continue, our flight directors, the flight directors are right here. These buttons right here. This little thing right here. You're going to want to make sure that is on. And the way you know that is on is you're going to see this green light come on, say MA. And you're going to flip this one on over here too. You're not going to see a green light over here though. Right, the flight directors are now both on. Our altimeters are going to come set. Let's just press B to automatically set them. Apparently they're 2992 here at LA as of right now. Usually you'll hear that in the ATIS information. The way you set your altimeter right here is it says 2992 right here. And the way to get rid of that is you move this little knob right here. So let's just keep the altitude right there. Alright, our altimeters are set. Now, before start checklist. Here's our before start checklist. Now, all we gotta do here is go over here, our before start checklist on our checklist if you are following along. Our anti-collision light that is gonna come on, our anti-collision light is right here. Our fuel pumps, we're gonna turn those on. These are the fuel pumps, make sure they all go away. Our center fuel pumps, we're going to look if they require, and the center fuel pump is right here. This little thing that says CTR, it's on the little ECAM here. And it says 0, so center fuel pumps are not required. Our electric hydraulics, basically right next to our engine hydraulics, we did this earlier. Now you're going to flip these two on. They say elect 2 and elect 1. You're going to want to flip these both on. They're going to say low pressure because you have not started an engine. Our parking brake, we're going to confirm that is set, and we know it's set because it is pull out and we have a red light here. This is what happens when you unset it. This is what happens when you set it. Our auto throttle, it says arm on the checklist. You're going to want to make sure we have a green light and that is flipped off. Alright, now we can request our pushback from via GSX. That's a screenshot. All we're going to do is prepare for pushback, and I'm just going to do southwest, of course. You may not have the GSX pushback. Let's just end on taxiway Delta. No, I do not want to start engines. So anyway, this car is going to push us back, the pushback car. Now, you may not have GSX, and the other way you could do it here is go menu, FS Actions, pushback, and you'll actually have someone talk to you. You could tell the total distance you want it to push, and you could also tell what way you want the nose to turn and the amount of degrees you want it to turn. So anyways, you want to go back to your legs page. Make sure that legs page is always open. And we're going to do our startup checklist next after we start pushing here.
Locking gear.
You're locking the gear.
Departure check completed.
Departure check completed by bus for release parking brake.
Release
Alright,
parking
you know,
brake.
release the parking brake.
Commencing push. All engines
And now,
clear.
all you gotta do,
Starting
you're
up
gonna
wheel.
start your engines. You wanna make sure you press this button right here, the engine button. You click that, and then you're gonna see a screen down here. And now to start your engines, to do that, you're gonna want to have your packs and your recirc fans off. Make sure your APU bleed is on. This little switch right here is on or down. And the reason I turned the packs off and the recirc fans off is because the engine needs all the air it can to start. So, anyways, to start engines, you go over here and you flip the switch to the left. That is starting number 2 now, and you will see now this start to rise up right here. You also see our engine starting here. Now you're going to want to wait till that says 23, and then you're going to flip this little fuel button up. See how it says 23? I flipped it up. And you're going to want to set your flaps for departure. Remember what you put in your FMC, and that is going to be flaps 5. Flaps 5 for 3 notches. 3 notches for flaps 5. You could get rid of this mess. Alright, you could start number 2 now, which is, or number 1 now. You could start number 1 by flipping, doing the same thing. Once again, we're going to wait for this to say 23, this little top thing right here. 1, 22, and 23. Flip that up. And then when you're done with your flight, this is how you also turn the engines off too. You just flip those off. How far are you pushing me back? We'll see how this ends. Are we ending on text with Delta? Yeah. Okay, so he's pushing us back all the way down to Delta. Alright, so number 2 or number 1 is starting now. Now what you gotta do, you gotta jump over here to your after start checklist. And you're going to turn your generators on. So generator 2 and 1 can come on, which is basically these 2 switches right here. And now you're going to see this blue light come on. That means you're not using your APU gen power because you have your generators running now. So you could turn your APU off. If once you turn your APU off and all your screens go black, you have done something wrong and you need to rewatch the tutorial. Next, you're going to want to turn your packs and your recirc fans on. Basically the same thing we just did, just onwards again. Flip those both to auto, make sure they are auto. Alright, packs are set. Your APU bleed air, which is this thing that I said you need to start the engines. The engines are not starting anymore, so you no longer need them, so you could flip that off. Your engine start switches, you're going to see buttons right here. They're going to say ground, off, continuous. You're going to flip these both to continuous, both the engines to continuous. So continuous means if they ever like die or something during takeoff or something like that, all you gotta do is, well, you don't have to do anything because they'll try relighting for you. That's what continuous means, so it's pretty straightforward. Alright, our auto brake are set for RTO, so rejected takeoff, so flip that to the left, and it'll say RTO right here. Our text lights, we're not going to turn those on to prevent blinding the ground crew. Alrighty. And we could put our flaps are set, and next is our probe heat, which is up here in the top right hand corner, and we flip these both to down. We're going to be stopping our pushback here shortly.
Set parking brake.
And set parking brake. Alright, now we could do our taxi lights once they walk away here.
Unlocking gear.
Unlocking the gear.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
And the bypass pin has been removed. Alright, now we can turn our taxi lights on here. taxi lights are basically the runway turn-off lights. You could turn these two on and the taxi light, obviously. And I also like turning the wheel well light on just to be on the safe side, to be more visible. And you'll see our taxi lights are now on.
Right is clear.
Here's our wheel well light. Alright, now all we gotta do is taxi to the runway. Right, he said have a good trip, so now we could release our parking brake. And in the 737, it's really simple. I always go like this, sometimes because the throttles glitch out. That's why I always do reverse thrust in my videos before I taxi. And I just give some slight throttle to get to the runway. I always make sure the brakes are working as well there. So we are taxiing, like I said, you don't need a lot of power at all. The speed, for those of you who do not know, on a taxiway is 25 knots. Right now, I'm about to be going 10 knots. Just going right turn right here. There we go. Now, this may be a little unlegit taxi, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes right now. I would never taxi like this in my videos. And here's runway 24 left, which is right here. You can see by that sign right there, 24 left. Alright, we're going to hold short here, right at this yellow hold short line. Well, it was there. And I'm going to set my parking brake by going down here. One thing I did neglect to do is turn the weather radars on. And before takeoff checklist, fuel flow, that is reset. So you come over here and you just flip this up. It's going to say auto throttle arm. Make sure the auto throttle is on arm again. Sometimes it tends to do that. Center fuel pumps as required. They're still not required. These strobe lights, the way you turn your strobe light on is you come over here to your position strobe light and you flip this all the way up. I know that may seem like it's off, but it's not. Trust me. You'll see the strobe light on the wing now is actually flipping there. The landing lights, we're going to turn those on by just hitting all of these. Our taxi lights all going to come off. And our transponder is set. And flaps are set to 5. Alright, we just got a call from the ATC saying we are clear for takeoff. Let's just check our finals. No aircraft on the final and no aircraft on the final. We're going to do that once more when we get out there. So we'll give him some throttle to get onto the runway here. Alright, and we are gonna center line ourselves here. Alright, I am going to be going 40%. So usually with the 737 or any plane you fly, you're going to want to go 40% to make sure your engines are rising stably. And then you're going to want to go full throttle. Or your N1 speed. So let's go 40% here. And I am going to set the takeoff power. And takeoff power set. We are in takeoff roll. Make sure you stay center line and don't get cool camera angles like me. Remember, V1 today is 136, so V1, rotate. You'll see down here. There's our rotation speed. We already crossed it. And we crossed V2, so you yell out V2 or call out V2. And you're going to do a positive climb, so you're going to put your gear lever up by pressing G or pressing the gear lever button. Remember, you still do have flaps down. So you're going to want to pull those up eventually. Don't pull them up immediately. You want to fly with them. That's actually a really different beep. I've never heard that one before. Huh. I've actually never heard about that beep before. I'm not kidding either. It's, out of all the time of me playing the 737, I've never heard that beep. So we're flying through clouds right now. I'm going to pull one setting of flaps up. And we are flying manually right now. Usually you will never hear that beep. That's actually my first time hearing that beep, believe it or not, so. Alright, we're going to level off here, so we're on route. And usually I like to do autopilot to about 5,000, but for demonstration purposes today, we're going to enable our autopilot by pressing Z or pressing the button here. You're going to turn LNAV on. LNAV basically navigates through your route, and you're going to want to enable speed. Make sure you stay below 250 knots, below 10,000 feet. Alright, you're going to want to get a vertical speed. Make sure you're not climbing too high. Vertical speed, you're going to want to go to about 2,000, the 737-800. Pulling flaps. And we had quite a low airspeed there, so we are just going to be reducing our climb there. Here's the wing view, guys, for those of you who want to see. Cloudy day in LA today. Once we are above 10,000, we could remove the landing lights and the logo lights. I'll show you what I mean, but since our gear is up now, we could turn the wheel well lights off to prevent wheel out fire. Sometimes you may have a rainstorm coming up here. To turn your windshield wipers on, you go up here, it's labeled pretty properly here. It says left wiper. You can turn them both onto high, you can put them on low. I'm going to keep them on low for now, just for an example. So here's the windshield wipers. And I'm going to be increasing your climb now as well to 2,000 since our speed's a bit higher. And pulling flaps all the way up. So we're going to turn our windshield wipers off since they're not necessary. And you will see now we are getting closer and closer to 250 knots. That's because our auto throttle is flying for us. Now let's say for an example an ATC said you turn right heading, let's say an ATC said you turn right heading 360 or 000. Turn right heading 360. So basically all you do is put it in your heading mode and you press heading select and the plane will start turning right for you. Alright, so let's say, yeah, P tells you to turn right, alright, you're climbing and everything. We're above 10,000 now, so we could put our speed up to 300 knots. And we could also turn our logo light off and our landing lights above 10,000. Once you're below 10,000, you're going to want to turn all that stuff back on. There's some mountains there, it's really nice. Mountains out there in the distance too. Alright, now you're heading right, heading 000 or 360. Now for an example, let's say the ATC says, alright, southwest, what were we? Southwest 129, southwest 129, proceed direct to Stoke. So what you would do here is you'd open up your FMC, you'd click the key that Stoke was on, mine happens to be on the third one, you'll see it come down here, and you place it, press execute, now it's up there in your route, and all you would do is turn your LNAV back on, and now you're flying and proceeding direct to Stoke. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. We went at about 40 minutes here, so I apologize for the long video. I just wanted to make sure you guys had it all. If you guys do have any questions, honestly, do not feel bad leaving them in the comments. I will listen and answer to all comments. So with that being said here, thank you guys so much for watching. If you do want to see a landing tutorial, how about this? If we get 10 likes on this video, I will do a landing tutorial how to land the Pmdg 737. So with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, if you do have any questions, I will answer it in the comments below. Don't feel bad, like I said. So thank you guys so much for watching. 10 likes for the landing video tutorial. This has been Aviator, signing out. See you guys in the next video.